Guys, Mike D checking in here. Man, people ask me all the time, like, what is the greatest hip hop album of all time? And as a hip hop head and as somebody who loves hip hop and who was born and raised in this hip hop shit, man, that's a very, very difficult answer to give. It's a very difficult question to answer, especially since you didn't come up in every single era. So you kind of gotta, separate the things that influenced you in your era and just look at the grand scope of things. And I always say there are 5 albums that deserve to be in that conversation. And I'm gonna go through those 5 albums today and the possibles, right? Because there's obviously more than 5, but the 5 that I would say make a great case to be the greatest hip hop album of all time. I'm gonna start in chronological order, man. Paid in Full by Eric B. and Rakim. Paid in Full, man, so much I could say about this album, man. We already know that Rakim came in here and changed the way that everybody flows. You could hear how hip hop sounds before Paid in Full and how hip hop sounds after Paid in Full. I also feel that Paid in Full has 3 and a possible 3 top 50 hip hop songs of all time. And that's Eric B.'s President, Paid in Full, and I Ain't No Joke. It even has My Melody and I Know You Got Soul as well as Possibles. My Melody could make a real great case to be a top 50 hip hop song of all time. I think top 100 for sure, right? So many lines have been taken from that song, the album in general, and just the way that we do hip hop and the way that we make hip hop. Paid in Full is the blueprint for so much. It changed everything and it changes everything. If we don't have Paid in Full, we don't have a lot. And that's going to take me to my next pick, actually. I remember Chuck D talking about It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back was made with Paid in Full in mind. And I'm saying that in a sense where he was talking about Yo Bum Rush the Show, the first Public Enemy album. There were delays, and by the time it was put out, Paid in Full was coming. And when Paid in Full came out, it made everything that came out before it sound obsolete, super old. And I mean, you can really hear that with Bum Rush the Show. And I love Yo Bum Rush the Show. It has some great records on it. But the elevation and the way that sounds changed and styles changed, you could hear Public Enemy actually reacting to that on It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Now, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. If you put a gun to my head and told me, yo, name the greatest hip hop album of all time and make the best case for it, or if I were in a class and had to make the best case for the greatest hip hop album of all time, my pick would be It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy. Not only does this album take subject matter to a whole different place, this album has bangers. Production is somewhere else. It's perfect from top to bottom. When we talk about doing verses or song matchups or whatnot, like going 20 for 20, and every artist I'm about to name here has an advantage because they have these albums in their catalog. When you have an album like It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back in your catalog or Illmatic, you have a huge advantage. You have records like Bring the Noise. You got records like Don't Believe the Hype. You got Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos. You got Rebel Without a Pause. you can even play a Terminator X on the edge of to the edge of panic with the Flash sample. Ridiculous, man. You got Night of the Living Bassheads. She watched Channel Zero. Man, where they took the game sonically, production wise, this sets the stage production wise and shit lyrically and approaches as well for what NWA did with Straight Outta Compton. You listen to Straight Outta Compton production wise, you can hear the influence from It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Shout out to the Bomb Squad for an incredibly produced album. Shout out to Chuck D for being the MC over all of this chaos. We had never heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, OGs out there, we had never heard an MC be able to cut through so much chaotic production. That's attributed to Chuck D and his voice, how powerful his voice is, how powerful his message is on this album. So many quotables on this album. Like, this is one of those albums that I think musically just goes down in history. And in all genres because of the approach, the timeless themes, man, the nature of this stuff. He's talking about everything that is super relevant today and will always be relevant. So it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. I could go on and on and on about this album, man. Louder than a bomb. If you haven't listened to this album, man, go back and listen to this album from start to finish, not just the highlights. And even with the skits, with them being on tour, like they wove this together perfectly. And my personal opinion, and I've heard Russell Simmons say this too, in Def Jam's illustrious career, this album is the crowning achievement. This album is the one. This is the one. This brought a lot of people knowledge to self. This brought through a Black righteous movement, um, hip hop being conscious and being intelligent and being fearless on top of that. You know what I mean? Like I could go on and on about it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. So yes, that would be one of my selections. Another selection, Nas Illmatic. Man, Illmatic gets talked about so much that I think that a lot of people are numb to its greatness and don't really think about what Illmatic truly means. When you think about a 17, 18, 19-year-old and 20, because he wrote this over a course of time, writing the songs that are on Illmatic and being paired up with Pete Rock, Large Professor, DJ Premier, and Q-Tip as these artists are coming off of some of their most excellent efforts. I mean, it's just spellbounding to think of all of those worlds coming together at once and being able to live at once in that synergy. It's never going to happen again. And it's just one of those moments in time. It's a moment in time for hip hop. And we got incredible records out of it. We got an appearance from AZ out of it on Life's a Bitch, where he gives you his life and he gives you his talents. And obviously he got a record deal out of that, but we were anticipating him on that one feature. I think that's one of the greatest features of all time, for the sole fact that not only did he perform, but he performed alongside what is ended up being the greatest MC of all time. And at that time, a guy who clearly had the potential to be the greatest MC of all time. And Illmatic has no flaws. I know when me and Ron Vay we're digging into the production of Illmatic, and we start talking about where Illmatic starts, finishes, what songs possibly were recorded first, second, third, last, and all of those things. I remember us talking about One Time for Your Mind, and growing up, that was always the song where we were like, it's the weakest song on Illmatic, right? But then when you think about One Time for Your Mind, it's special because it's a time capsule, right? It's that song that came from the demo days of Nas. It's that song that Nas was able to be free, be a young person that wasn't, so serious. He's just chilling. And it's a snapshot of what life must have been like for actual young Nas. And it had to be included on the album because it gives you a insight into that time. Now, let's talk about Illmatic from a larger lens. I mean, it really changed the flow of things. And you listen to the way people were flowing before Illmatic, and you listen to the way people were flowing back after it. Illmatic is a throwback to the 80s and that flow and the way that rhymes were being constructed. And it made everyone moving forward think about, I got to step it up. I got to really be out here spitting because this is what it is out here. You know what I'm saying? And Illmatic is not only excellent, but it is one of those impactful albums that not only let us know that one of the great ones was about to step into the room, but it lets you know too that everybody's going to have to step it up. And even if, you're not from Queensbridge, you're not from New York, you understand the level of talent that is coming out, and you have to be that level and beyond. My other pick, excuse me, it's gonna be Raekwon's "Only Built for Cuban Links." Man, "Only Built for Cuban Links," I think could be one of the greatest. It could be not one of. It could be the greatest hip hop album of all time. First of all, because it is production wise, it's one of the greatest albums of all times just for production itself. Raekwon is on point on this album. This album has Incarcerated Scarfaces on it. It has Ice Cream on it. It has Wu Gambinos on it. I mean, it's damn near perfect from top to bottom. And we know what Wu Tang brings to the table when it comes to lyricism and lyrics. I think lyrically, it is the best Wu Tang effort that there is. Because not just because of the individual MC and Ray, but the fact that everybody who's featured on this album, they brought their A game. Everybody who's featured on this album, they came with their best. Method Man came with his best when it came to hooks, some of the verses. RZA came with his best production-wise and the verses. You God came with his best. Jizza came with his best. Inspector came with his best. And then you got Ghostface over here riding co-pilot on this whole thing. Like, when I listened to Only Built for Cuban Links the other day, man, I'm like, this is the gold standard, man. Like, there's not a lot of albums that I could just straight up say are better than Only Built for Cuban Links. It, from an impact standpoint, it gave us that mafioso rap. It gave us, a certain approach that we heard in the '90s. Thereafter, I mean, you could hear even Nas as it was written is a reaction to Only Built for Cuban Links. You can hear Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt is a reaction to Only Built for Cuban Links. Now, I don't have reasonable doubt on this, but I do think that it could be one of the greatest hip hop albums ever. But if we're talking about just straight up, what do I think the better album is? I think Only Built for Cuban Links is a better album than Reasonable Doubt. I also think it's a better album than Into the 36 Chambers, you know? Um, and Low End Theory is up there for me as well, and that's going to be one of my possibles. But I just think Only Built for Cuban Links is a better album than that. I would put Only Built for Cuban Links over The Chronic just for the lyricism. Like, I just would. I mean, and Only Built for Cuban Links is one of those albums that, as great as these other albums I'm mentioning are, it could be argued that if you're listening to them album for album, that Only Built for Cuban Links is the better album. So that's why I have it on this list. I have Only Built for Cuban Links on this list because it's just a powerhouse. You know what I mean? And it has the hits on top of that, and it's groundbreaking. And my fifth pick would be Outkast Aquemini. And Aquemini is my pick here because Aquemini is just a perfect album from top to bottom. And from a quality standpoint, it's more so a quality pick. It's Outkast at their highest power. It's our greatest duo ever in hip hop history at their height, at their zenith, at the best of their individual abilities and the best of their synergy as a collective, as a duo. Once again, when you have the Dungeon Family collaborations here, and you got Raekwon on here. Raekwon's got 2 albums on here. It's everybody brought their A game. Backbone brought his A game. Witch Doctor brought his A game. Raekwon brought his A game. You know, Gip, Cujo, you name it. Timo. Timo starts off, y'all scared, piece by piece. This puzzle comes together. Sever your ties with the bad guys. Let the lies go. If you want to be a hoe, go ahead and don't be scared. Like, everybody is spitting that shit on Aquemini. Now, Aquemini's singles were released. First song I heard was Skewing on the Barbie, but the official single was Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks, a classic jam. I think it's one of those songs that you could really say identifies who Outkast is from beginning to end, right? But I find it very funny that the song that wasn't released as a single back in the day, or didn't really have a music video for, Spodio the Dopalicious, it seemed to have the most legs over time. And I love to see that because that just shows the quality of music can stand the test of time. And to me, Aquemini gets this pick because I could make the argument Aquemini is the greatest hip hop album ever because but that's 72, 73 minutes, skits and all. There are no flaws in this album. Very little samples, a lot of live instrumentation, and during a year where live instrumentation wasn't really the thing in hip hop. A lot of experimentation. You got George Clinton on the album with synthesizer, and it does a lot. It does a lot from beginning to end, and I think that Aquemini definitely deserves to be in that conversation where we're talking about five of the greatest hip hop, not five of the greatest hip hop albums ever, but an album that I could make a case for being the greatest hip hop album ever. But let me know what you guys think. Oh, also, hold on. Before I go, I'm going to I'm gonna say the possibles. I think the Chronics are possible. I think Doggy Styles are possible. I think the Low End Theories are possible. And I also think that there's one that I'm missing. There's one that I'm missing. You can make a case for impact wise straight out of Compton. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section and hit like and subscribe. Appreciate it.